Hi, this is Bill Highland with Ghost and Spirit Paranormal. Today's episode of My Problem With, I'm going to be discussing photo forgeries. There seems to be tons of these things flying around out there. It's very easy to do now with these apps and Photoshop and GIMP. There's just so many different programs that you can manipulate photographs with. And today I'm going to share a couple techniques with you that I've come across and figured out in ways that you can identify forgeries in a photograph. Some of them are just information. Some of them are actual analysis of the photographs themselves. Before I get started with that though, I'd like to talk a little bit about digital cameras and how they handle photographs. And this will lead to what I'm going to talk about down the road here. Whenever a digital camera, whether it be just a handheld digital camera, a Canon, an iPhone, an iPad, regardless of what the camera is, it takes a photograph, and that photograph is a pretty big file in RAW format. So what these devices do is they compress that file, usually in a JPEG format. And not only do these cameras compress the photograph and all the digital information that's on there, it also records EXIF, or exchangeable image file format. And what that is all the information about the camera itself. The make, the model, the exposure time, shutter speeds, all the settings on that camera, whether the flash was used or not. All this information is recorded in this EXIF that's embedded into the photograph. Another interesting thing that's kept in this EXIF is if you take a photograph and say you open it with Photoshop and you crop it or use auto enhance features or remove red eye, whatever it is you do, when you save that file is also going to have the EXIF or compression signatures embedded in that EXIF file. So not only can you tell all the camera settings, you can tell all the software that was used to handle that photograph, which can lead you down the road to dig a little deeper. And I'll show you another process here later that shows how to do that. So the digital cameras that take these photographs, they hold a lot more information than just the picture itself. And I'll show you how to extract all this information here a little bit later. And another method that I use is image error level analysis. Basically what that does is, let me explain to you this way. If you take a photograph and you don't edit it, it's being compressed by your camera. Okay, so that's compressed one time. If you open that photograph in another program and just say you copy and paste, I'll show you an example of this. You copy and paste that and save that photograph, you have two layers of compression in that one photograph. You have the copy and paste, which was compressed one time when you saved it, but all the background information that you pasted on top of is compressed the second time because it was compressed by the photograph, or excuse me, it was compressed by the camera and it was compressed by the software that you just used. And you can tell the differences between levels of compression just by the detail of the pixels. And I'll get into that a little bit with you too. And that's a program that I'll be discussing in depth because it's really helpful. So let me get started here and I'll show you a couple instances of what I was talking about here.
Okay, here's a software program I'm using called JPEG Snoop, and it's a free download online. First thing I want to do is I want to drag my photograph onto the plane. This is a photograph that I took when I was on vacation. It was completely unedited, so I just want to show you the results of this. Up top you're going to have all your camera information, the name, make, model, all of your shutter settings, autofocus, whether or not it was on or off, all the information about the camera itself, and it's pretty in-depth. Every setting that can possibly be set on that camera is recorded. And once you get this program and you drag a photo in there, you're going to see all the information that's on here. But what I want to get to is mainly at the very, very bottom. It will produce a report or an analysis of that photograph, and it will display all of the compression signatures that I was talking about earlier. So if you scroll down a little bit after all the camera information, you're going to start getting into pixel information. I can't make heads or tails of all this. I'm sure somebody can, but I can't. So what I'll do here is I'll just completely scroll all the way to the bottom here, and we'll get to the meat of what this is all about. It'll take me a second to scroll the whole way down through here. Like I said, it looks at every pixel in that picture, and it looks for compression. At the bottom here, you're going to have the report, and it's going to have a list of your compression signatures, which is basically all of the programs or cameras that you use to manipulate the photograph. And here is a list of all the Canon cameras, and at the bottom somewhere down here, mine should be listed. It'll be there. It is at the very bottom. That is my camera. The settings are fine, and the compression signature matches the camera. And at the bottom of the report, you saw that it was an original photograph. Now I'm going to take a known forgery and I'm going to load it in here, and I'm going to skip all of the stuff about the camera, because it doesn't really matter what the camera was at this point, because I know it's a forgery. So I'll scroll down to the report, and this is where it gets pretty interesting. And I was talking a little earlier about how the software programs are also embedded in this EXIF information. So here we go. We're going to look at the compression signatures, and if you look, you're going to see these different signatures. And at the very bottom, you're going to see the EIX software was Adobe Photoshop. So it lists the software that was used. Now, it doesn't tell you that that program was used to falsify the photograph. They could have just cropped it. But anyway, it detected that signature, and it listed it, and the assessment is that the image was processed. Okay, now here we're going to look at some image error level analysis. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this photograph of a cemetery, and I'm just going to do some simple copy and pasting. Just an example so I can show you how this works. So I'll just copy that area, and I'll paste it, and I'll lay it exactly on the same spot that I laid it on before. Now, remember I was talking about different layers of compression. This is where you're going to see the different layers. The layer that I'm moving around right now is only going to be compressed one time, while the areas in the background are going to be compressed for the second time, one by the camera, one by this Microsoft Paint program. And I'll just do two spots here. I'll do a little spot over here by the bush, and I'll lay that down exactly in the same spot, so it will be impossible for you to see it with your eyes. Okay, so here I have two areas. I have one by the bush and one over here by the fence. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to save that file. I'll just name it, whatever, I don't know, we'll just name it and we'll save it. And then we're going to take an analysis of that. Okay, here I'm going to take that photograph, and I'm going to show you the different compression levels that you can see with your eyes now. You can clearly see the two areas that have different compression levels. One was compressed once, and the whole background image was compressed 2 times, so therefore the details a little less sharp, as you can obviously see with your eyes. Okay, here's a photo I took with my iPad, and I used an app, as you can see in the bottom right hand picture, and I used it just to put this image of this ghost behind the chair. And I did this because I wanted to show you what an actual edited photograph would look like using an app for a cell phone or portable device. There's two obvious areas in this picture that were altered. Obviously the spirit that's behind the chair, and the watermark on the lower right hand corner. And you'll see the huge differences in the layering and the error levels in this photograph. Okay, here's an analysis of that photograph, and you can see at the spirit head and down at the watermark, they clearly stand out from the rest of the photograph, and that's because of the different layers of compression. You have a first layer of compression and second layer of compression, and the second layer obviously is a lot less detailed than the last compression. So it's pretty easy to see if you look at this still photograph. It just really stands out, and the more times you compress this file, the more detail you're going to lose, and the less, suppose you were to edit this photograph 5 times, the first 2 or 3 layers of compression are going to be so distorted it's going to be hard to pick out. But if a photograph's only edited 1 time with one program, it's going to stand out just like this.